Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to meet with you again. The Phillies bullpen is trash, and Dylan and I are here to talk some spitballing. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Spitballing as the Phillies continue to fall apart and they continue to disappoint us. And the offense is prolific. Starting pitching is okay. The bullpen is about as pathetic as I've ever seen before. Dylan, how you doing, buddy? How's that for an opening?
I'm not doing too well, Mike. Look, we sat here a couple weeks ago and said that we believe this is a playoff team. We believe that this is a team that can compete for the division. And for a while, they were. And they went on that run where they won 10 of 11 games after Bryce Harper said they needed to win 9 of 10. And it just like everything was going the right way. And then, we talked a lot about how Clentak has made some moves, nothing that jumps off the screen at you, but, the bullpens are revamped a little bit. They're getting their rolls down, so on and so on. And then it all just falls apart. You go down to Miami, you lose 5 of 7 to the Miami Marlins. Over that road trip, you lost Rhys Hoskins. You lost JT Realmuto for a little bit of time. You've lost Spencer Howard for a little bit of time. Jake Arrieta, I know you're not a fan of him, but he was their third starting pitcher. Yeah. He's been pitching decent. And now Joe Girardi said today that he is going to be done for the remainder of at least the regular season, not if they make the postseason, but for the regular season. So now you said
don't forget about Zach Wheeler. He missed a couple of starts. He was amazing.
Wheeler missed an extra start. He looked great last night. Besides the home run by J.D. Davis last night, yeah. But with that nail injury, but look, everything is just not going the way we expected it. And I think if there was a moment to describe this Phillies season perfectly, it was last night. And that is with Hector Neris dropping the baseball.
Yeah, God.
For a ball.
I think I've never seen that.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, and I've been watching baseball for a really long time.
So you had a 4-run lead. Zach Wheeler, yes, although he gave up the home run and it was a 1-run game when he got out, he pitched 7 1/3, pitched a great game. His velocity was fine after, that was a little bit of a concern with the nail injury. You wasted a 4-run lead.
99 on the gun easily.
Yeah. So you wasted a 4-run lead and a very, very good Zach Wheeler outing.
Yeah.
Because Hector Neris wants to drop the ball at the pitcher's mound before he's even in his windup for a balk that ultimately puts the go-ahead run at second base and then the single the very next at bat. And that's just my perfect way of describing this Philly season. It's a dumpster fire.
I think I saw a stat last night that said that the Phillies have a combined 8 saves but 14 blown leads. Is that the right number? I'm pretty sure it is.
So. You want to hear some better numbers?
Look, you did your homework today, didn't you? You're ready for me.
Yep. So last night was the 36th time this year that the Phillies have scored first in 48 games. 36 of 48 games, they scored first. They are a 5.
By the way, that's pretty good.
They're a 500 team. They're 24-24. That was their 6th loss last night after having a 3+ run lead. The Braves don't have one of those, and the Marlins, I believe, only have one. The 2 teams ahead of them in the NL East. You want to be a great team? Keep a lead. You want to be a great team? Go out there and get a save from your bullpen, and not every single night it's the same story. It's the same nightmare being played over and over again in our heads.
You know what's crazy, though? Usually when you have a bad bullpen, and as a Phillies fan, we've seen a lot of those over the years, there's usually at least one guy that's somewhat reliable. But, I mean, it doesn't matter what button – I feel bad for Girardi, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter what button he pushes. Adam Morgan was looking pretty good for a while. Let's go with him. Blows it last night. Workman had a really good run during the winning streak. Now he can't get anybody out. Jojo Romero's not bad, but everybody else sucks. Heath Embry came over, looked fantastic. He's terrible. I mean, there's not one button that – and Hector Neris, I don't even have to start on that.
David Phelps has been the worst. He was the one out of all the trades. I thought, okay, this is the one that can be a steady, reliable hand. He's been the most disappointing out of them all. Like his decline in numbers, like at least Hembry and Hale and Workman, like they were good last year, but their numbers this year weren't that great. And it was like, oh, they played for bad teams, so we'll see what they can do with the Phillies. Phelps was great this year. Great. And his numbers have just completely flipped the other way. Like he came to Philadelphia with, I believe, 20 strikeouts to 2 walks. He had like an under 2 ERA. Like he was great against right-handers. I forget if it was right or left-handers. He was basically unhittable from that side of the box. And he came over here. He's allowed a home run basically every time he's been on the mound. It's frustrating.
I tweeted out 2 home runs ago that I was getting Turk Wendell vibes. I mean, if you remember towards the end of the Ed Wade era, the Phillies weren't really in contention, but it sort of looked like they might be. They were about 7-8 games back. So it was the closest they'd been in a while. So he did one of those arbitrary moves to make it look like he's trying to win. And he traded with the Mets and brought over 2 guys. And one of them was Turk Wendell, who had a really good season. And as soon as he got to Philadelphia, he couldn't get anybody out. I think he had an 8 ERA for the rest of the season. And this feels exactly the same thing with David Phelps.
Well, we have a couple comments here from the Joe Show, Philly Sports Talk. If you know him from last week, Mike, it was Wild Wild West. He changed his name. Phillies don't deserve to make
that, and they can think we have a lot more people doing it.
I'd rather see the Marlins in because I know the Phillies make the playoffs. They will be out first round. Well, as of right now, it looks like both teams are going to make the postseason because the Phillies are tied for a wild card spot. And the rest of the National League, as far as the wild card seeding goes, they're all like under 500. The Phillies and the Giants are both
for one team. You just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Captain Coconut Oil's Giants.
Then he goes on. The Phillies bullpen didn't blow so bad. They would probably have the same record as the Dodgers. I don't know about that, but they'd have a much better record. Like even if you took the 6 games, let's say you took 5 of the 6 games where they had a 3+ run lead. So that's 5 more wins compared to loss. That record, what are you looking at there? You're looking at 29-19 right there?
Well, we had a stat last week that showed that if the Phillies held all their 2-run leads in the 8th inning, from the 8th inning on, if they held all their 2-run leads, they would have been 8.5 games in front of the Braves. It's bad.
It's so bad. And he wraps up here with Tommy Hunter needs to work at a laundromat. Yeah, ship all of them out. I don't care. Everyone can go with Clentek at the end of the season. But, Mike, if I don't
know. I mean, Clentek's getting a lot of heat, and I think he's terrible. But I think it stems more to John Middleton not wanting to go over the luxury tax during the trade deadline. So, I mean, they got a lot of, lipstick on the pig type Band-Aids. Phelps, I thought, was a really good, to your point earlier, was the best of the lot. And, it's funny. I watch, they keep showing Girardi in the dugout, then they show the bullpen. And he doesn't even know what to do. He's like, do I bring in Workman to close? Do I bring in I don't think he knows what to do. And what can you do when nobody makes it out? They've got stud pitching coach, and it's just, the starters look pretty good, but good God, this bullpen is just tragic.
Like, what can you do when the guy on the mound just drops the ball?
Well, that's just more of a microcosm of what the bullpen has been this year. But, let's move on to some other topics because here's
the topic for you. Dives, my man Dives says, who has better hair, Alec Bohm or Mike Small? I'm going to have to go with my co-host here.
Oh, there's no doubt, man. I could have that Bohm fro in the back, no problem, man. Let that thing grow down just like Jason Worth. I think that's a good shout out by Dives, and he's absolutely right. But I still love me some Alec Bohm, though. He does have a nice cut.
Speaking of hair, Bryce Harper cut his hair. And if things couldn't get any worse this season, Bryce Harper is in a slump that I haven't seen Bryce Harper go through in a long time. And I believe now it's not even just like a 10-game slump, a 12-game slump. It's like he's had more games in a slump of the 48 played than I think he's had like the first 23 he was on fire, batting like a 360 something, like 7 or 8 home runs, whatever, almost 20 RBIs, was playing in NL MVP race.
MVP. Yeah, we're talking MVP. He was hitting 355.
And now in like the last 24, 25 games, literally half the season right now, like just as many of a sample size of his hot streak compared to his slump. He has been awful. He's batting like under a 170, 165. He's had 1 home run in the last 25 games or 24 games or whatever. His RBIs are way down. He's striking out more, and
he's walking a lot still. I'll give him that.
They were talking about it last night on the ESPN broadcast. I don't know if you watched that or the NBC Sports Philly one.
No, I tortured myself with Tom McCarthy.
You don't like McCarthy?
I don't, man. I love Frank in LA, but my God, all right, I'm gonna give you my whipping boys right now from broadcasting. I think T-Mac is terrible. I absolutely hate Kevin Franzen. He laughs at all of his own jokes. They're not funny. I can't stand Ben Davis. I am over 3 on those guys. I like Ruben Amaro Jr. on the broadcast. I think he's actually really good.
So do I.
Crook's okay. Crook's not bad.
I thought J-Roll was really good in this. In the company that he called.
But Frank in LA for me is the way to go.
I'll tell you who was awful. Jamie Moyer.
Yeah, he was pretty
bad. When they gave him and Stairs, I thought were awful.
And so let's be honest, Chris Wheeler was terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait till Chris Wheeler got off. But look, I grew up with Harry and Whitey, and I think Fransky and LA I'm not in that class, but they're really good. But God, the rest of them are tragic. But I took you off topic. So you said on the ESPN broadcast, what did you hear?
They were talking a lot about Bryce's slump. I think last night he was 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts or whatever it was and 2 flyouts. And they were just like he not only is he struggling, but it's like for the first time maybe in his career, it's mental now too over the stretch. They were breaking down his swing and, like watching it, like you don't pay that much attention into like the mechanics of his swing, but it's the truth. His top half isn't going with his bottom half. They're not in sync. So his upper body's going and his hips aren't, or his hips are going first and then his upper body's following, and he's just not in sync. His mechanics are off at the plate, and it's not looking good.
Do you remember when Ryan Howard was starting to lose it and they would throw him a low and outside slider and he would flail for it? Well, they're giving Bryce Harper high and inside, and he just swings under it every single time, and he can't lay off of that pitch. And he's not catching up to it, which is the scary part. I'm not going to say that he's, his bat speed is down, but it's just he's got to make that adjustment.
Jason Kelsey cut his hair. He looks like Hedwig from Harry Potter.
Should we do an all hair podcast?
Oh man, don't even get me started on that team. But
where's Dives? Tell Dives to do a 16 seed of best hair.
Yeah, there you go, Dives. If you're still listening,
I'll be a 12 seed if that's okay. But no, I'm just kidding.
Look, man, I don't even look. If you were coming to the show today looking for a well thought out episode, just not here, because I am so disgusted with this team right now. And here's what I want to say, Mike. I feel like it's like people are letting it slide by, because it is, first and foremost, this town, Philadelphia, is a football town. Now that's back. You had 2 teams who people were hoping could make playoff runs, and one that came close to making a playoff run with this weird setup where it took over baseball season. Do not let what is going on slide by unnoticed, okay? Because you have the Eagles with their terrible performance in week 1 and their blown loss to the Washington football team. You have the Flyers team who got shut out in a Game 7 who were looking to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You had a Sixers team who got swept in the first round, who is now in a head coaching hunt, and people want a new president of basketball operations and the whole front office just revamped. And this Phillies team is just flying under the radar right now with another weak, sad, underachieving performance in September yet again.
So you make a great point. There's a couple of really good points that you just made there. I just want to give everybody a little bit of a peek inside of our process. So Dylan is great, man. Dylan texts me all the time. You know, when things are going well for the Phillies, he gets all jacked up and he'll text me. He's like, boom, you know, like he gets all fired up. And then like we get right before we're about to air, like the day or two before, and we start throwing topics at each other that we want to hit. And I feed into his excitement. I love it. We texted last night and I was like, no agenda. They suck. I don't even want to write it. We're just going to talk. And that's where we are today. But I think there is a certain amount of apathy going on with this team right now. And it is disappointing. I mean, when you look at 2007 to 2011, the Phillies were the team. I mean, everybody was Phillied up. And, you know, it would dominated all the talk shows, you know, but, you know, once 2011 hit and, you know, it looked like the run was over. We knew the run was over. And, you know, Ruben Amaro waited too long to trade everybody. Then, you know, you start listening to WIP or the Fanatic, and it's, you know, who's going to be our backup left tackle? Like, oh, God, it's boring again. And that's where we are again, man. People have apathy. How often can you talk about this pathetic bullpen? It's just, there's only so much you can say about it. And you and I experienced that at the beginning of the show. There's only so many times you could say they suck, call them out individually, and remind everybody how much they suck. So I think you're right. The Sixers thing is still really interesting, even though people are disappointed. You still have two transcendent stars, and I think with some good tweaking and work in the front office and coaching and a new vision, it could be really exciting. The Flyers are up and coming.
Until they bring in Mike D'Antoni. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, I hate to say this. I think the Eagles are heading in this direction too. I think the Eagles might be kind of bad, you know, but that's another discussion. But my biggest fear as being a Philly sports fan is irrelevance. The Sixers were irrelevant before the process. The Phillies were irrelevant for most of my lifetime. The Flyers have been irrelevant since, I don't know, Ron Hextall retired until, you know, except for one run and then this year. And, you know, I think I'm worried that we're heading in that direction. The Phillies are very fixable. The Phillies have a great offense. I mean, they're scoring runs and they're fun to watch. They've got two studs in Nola and Wheeler. And the bullpen is so interesting, though. If you think about it, you think you take guys with track records and they're really, really good for a couple of years and you grab them and then they end up being bad on your team because bullpen guys get burned out quickly. There's very few superstar middle relievers that last for a long time. So it comes to scouting and coaching and research and development and stuff. I mean, how many of these guys have great stuff? You know, we can go through it. I mean, Workman has terrible stuff. He's got a decent curveball. Heath Hembry's got okay stuff. Tommy Hunter does not have good stuff. And when we're watching the Marlins, you see one guy after another with 98, 90. We saw with the Mets last night. The Mets 7th, 8th, and 9th inning were all guys that were throwing 98, 99 with wicked sliders. The Phillies just don't have it.
And you know what? You know what? I'm not going to just let last night's game go by because you had a chance. You lost 5 of 7 to the Marlins. You come back home. You win the first one against the Mets. Then you get a matchup in Wheeler versus DeGrom. You're not sure how it's going to play out because of Wheeler's nail injury. He deals. You rake against DeGrom in the first 2 innings. You get him out of there. Yes, I know the injury, whatever, came up and they pulled him for that reason. But you were also –
you got those runs. You got them.
You also got to them. You had a 4-0 lead, okay? Yeah. And I'm just not going to let that go by because I literally just lost my train of thought.
You know, I will finish it for you. It's a disastrous loss. It's the kind of loss that you pile on. And you won with Eflin on the mound and you lose with Wheeler. You're looking at just so many more starts for Wheeler and Nola, and you've got to win those, especially when you give them leads.
Right. Yeah,
rotten Mets.
That's where I was trying to go, is the fact that you got DeGrom out of there in the third inning. And what did they score? One more run?
Mm-hmm.
Gene hit the solo home run.
Yep,
so you scored. So let me get this straight. Their starter went not even 3 innings. You scored 1 run off of him throughout the rest of the game. Your starter goes 7 1/3. You need 5 outs from your bullpen. You don't get it.
Their bullpen kicked the Phillies' ass. That's exactly what happened. Their bullpen was great.
I really think that they thought they got to the Mets. Wheeler's dealing. I mean, they got to DeGrom. They got DeGrom out of there. They had a 4-run lead. Wheeler's dealing. I think they thought they had the game wrapped up.
I don't even know if that mentality is true. I mean, when you look at the lineup, I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's baseball. It's not basketball or football where you let up as a team. I mean, Scott Kingery's batting under his weight. He wants to get a hit. I mean, these guys are trying. Alec Bohm is still a rookie, and he's trying to get a hit. He did get one eventually. But what I'm saying is, it's not like these guys aren't focused or trying to score. I think they just got shut down by a well-pitched bullpen.
That's another thing. Hold on. Roman Quinn. I know he might be the fastest player in the MLB. Got it. Love it. If he can get on base, I'm all for it. That dude, I don't think he has a mindset at the plate, Mike.
No.
I don't think he goes up there and just flails away. He struck out on 3 or 4 pitches last night, and not a single pitch was close to the zone. It was all low and away, and every swing was off balance, throwing one arm out with the bat, just flailing away.
You got to tell him, if it's not a fastball, you're not allowed to swing. And if you want to swing, you better bunt it and run, because that's where he is right now.
All right, Mike, before we wrap this up, there is one, I guess, exciting thing to look for tonight if you're going to watch the Phillies over the National Football League tonight. And that's that the Phillies' former first-round pick is playing. He's in the lineup, Mickey Moniak.
Is he starting?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I think he's your 9th.
I got something for you on the Mick. I actually watched Mickey Moniak play a lot in the minors because I live in Toms River, New Jersey, which is 10 minutes away from where the Lakewood Blue Claws play. So, I would go over there and watch him. And honestly, it was really, really disappointing because he could barely hit it out of the infield. And, I guess he got a little bit better. But, man, he was really, really bad. And I don't have a lot of optimism that if you hit 240 in the minors, you're going to come up and do really, really well in the majors. But I would like to. There was an article today by Corey Seidman that I took down. If you remember, in 2016, the Phillies had the #1 pick in the draft. And there were a lot of guys they could have taken, but they took Moniak because they could sign him for a kind of a low value. And they wanted to sign Kevin Gowdy, who was a pitcher that they really liked in the 2nd round. So they signed him for $2 million above his slot value. And what they thought they were getting basically 2 first-rounders for the price of 1 in that way. Gowdy ends up having Tommy John surgery. He's in Lakewood right now. He's got an ERA of almost 5 and walks everybody. You know about Moniak. Let me tell you some of the guys that they missed out on that year. Shane Bieber, who's leading the majors in strikeouts, was a 4th-round pick. Pete Alonso, who was the Rookie of the Year last year. Bo Bichette was a 2nd-rounder that year. Zach Gallen was a 3rd-rounder. Kevon Biggio was a 5th-rounder. Will Smith, who's batting .268 for the Dodgers and is a very good player, was the 32nd pick that year. Nick Senzel was the 2nd pick, and he hasn't been as great as he started off. But Mariners center fielder Kyle Lewis was the 11th overall pick. He's hitting .295 with 10 homers. Ian Anderson from the Braves was 3rd overall. Jason Groom, a local South Jersey kid who throws about 100 miles an hour, was the 4th or 5th pick by the Red Sox that year, who's about to ready to make his debut. It's just another Clintac failure. But good luck.
Why did you have to do that?
Oh, I'm a buzzkill. There's no doubt about it.
All right, Mike. Let's end on this. So
Yes.
a couple weeks ago, I think it was 2 episodes ago, we asked the question. The theme of our episode was, "Is this a playoff team?" And everywhere we looked, every which way we looked at it, our answer came back to yes, we believe it is. Well, technically, they're still a playoff team. There's, I believe, 12 games left for the Phillies. They are tied with the Giants for that 7 seed, that first wild card spot. And then I forget how many they're behind Miami. I want to say they're a game or a game and a half behind the Marlins.
I think it's 1.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, where are you now? Are you in or you're out?
I think they're a playoff team based on who their competition is. I think that it's just there's teams like the Nationals that are just really, really bad this year. And there's a lot of teams that have had a lot of injuries. The Phillies really have been fairly healthy until recently. And, the Rhys Hoskins thing really, really hurts. But I think they're going to hold on and squeeze into a, 7th or an 8th seed. And it's not going to be a long run. Although you get into a short series and you've got Nolan, Wheeler, anything can happen. But
I just want to see.
I think somebody's got to step up and just say, you know what? I'm the closer. I'm the 8th inning guy. Let's go. Somebody's
really
got to show some balls and step up.
And going to that point, I'm with you. I think they kind of are a playoff team by default. Like, yes, the Giants are tied with them right now, but that's for the first wild card seed. Like, that's not even for the 8th seed. So I just think that they are going to find themselves in the playoffs, whether it's the 7 or 8 seed or whether, the Phillies go on a 4 or 5 game win streak and the Marlins drop a couple and they take over that 2 seed. That's yet to be seen. But I think one way he has to try to fix this bullpen is I would slide Blake Parker and JoJo Romero. Obviously, they're not 2 names that you're going to be like, wow, they can carry us in the postseason. I would slide them towards the back end of the bullpen.
Hey, Blake Parker's been a closer on a decent team before.
I really would.
It's worth a shot.
What? Yeah, exactly. What do you have to lose by doing that? Like, it can't be anywhere.
Because I'm on Zoom calls all day for work, and my head gets fried. So that when I finally have lunch, these are the things I think about. I started thinking today, like, wow, if Wheeler's nail is okay, what about making him like in a Josh Hader role and having him go 3 innings a night and lock it down? And, I'm like playing with all these ideas in my head, but I mean, Parker and JoJo are as good as any. I mean, I'd try anything at this point.
I think you have to. Like, you can't keep doing the same thing. You can't continue to throw Hembree and Neris and Workman out there because it's not working. Like, and it helps. Like, I know he doesn't have a lot of options to turn to, but you got to shake something up. The key to this Phillies team making the postseason and maybe having a little bit of success in this postseason is obviously the offense is going to have to be there. And then pitching wise, you have to get 7 out of your starters.
I really thought that
Phelps was
the closer. I really thought Phelps was going to end up being the closer. I was really excited by that one. I thought that was really under the radar, at the deadline, and I was wowed by it. There's something that as soon as you put on red pinstripes, you forget how to play. I don't know what that is, at least on the pitching mound. But you and I, it's funny. We came up with, I think, a pretty cool name for our podcast here, Spitballing, because we were spitballing ideas for a name. I'm wondering if we should change it to, a picture of Willie Nelson and call it To All the Leads I've Blown Before, because that's where I'm headed right now.
I'll try to get that as an intro.
See what you can do, man. Let's wrap it up. I can't talk about this anymore. Maybe they'll win a game.
Yeah. Go follow us on Twitter at BallinSpit. I'm on Twitter at DylanJD98. As you can see, he's at Real Mike Small. Mike, it's always a pleasure. I know we weren't as optimistic today as we have been on our previous 4 shows or 3 shows, but this team drains you.
If I'm going to grade myself on today's performance, I'm going to call it a Brandon Workman. But we at least did our best.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
It's going to get better.
Yep. Go Phils.